Alright, what's up guys? We are in Season 3, Episode 2 here with our Knicks, and we're getting back to our roots. Alright, you may have noticed I've reloaded the first game that we played in the last episode. We're going back to just ripping through this season, and darn it, we're getting back to the playoffs and hopefully into the finals and hopefully winning it. By the time you're through with this episode, we're going to be through the playoffs and already talking about future plans for this series. By the way, if you want to download where we're at this very moment, there is a file up on 2K Share where you can get to the actual start here of the 2024-25 season with the Knicks. So let's just get right to it. I'll give you all the highlights as we simulate through this season here. Let's see if the Knicks can get back and redeem themselves after the first round elimination after being the best team in the NBA last season. So we are up to December 1st at this point. The Knicks are 13-6. Chemistry sitting at 72%. Fan interest 100%. Just to remind you here, these are some of the items we talked about on the last episode of, maybe Jamal Murray. This is the year to maybe look to move him, especially if things are going south. Not sure if he'll be back next year. Pretty huge financial commitment to Jamal Murray, obviously. But if we're going to make a title run, he's a guy that we need, right? So it's kind of a coin flip on what we kind of do with him. But to me, retaining him does seem to make the most sense. We talked about these other guys too. Julius Randle, same kind of thing. Maybe his shelf life starting to expire a little bit here, and then really some depth here at forward and center that we could possibly look to move. If we look around the league, where does that put us as far as standings go? First in the power rankings, we are the 5th team in the NBA. We are the 4th team though in the East, so it's pretty competitive this year. Atlanta, Philadelphia, Toronto, all ahead of us there, as well as the Sacramento Kings there in the West, the best team in the West right now. As far as standings go, again, we're pretty early here. Again, just December 1st, but we are 13-6, so 19 games into the season. But again, very, very nice record. Atlanta's just been a really hot team. Nearly 80% win percentage there for them. And but we're keeping pace with them. Again, our points against is a little bit worrisome there in the beginning. We're giving up quite a few points. If we sort by the Eastern Conference, 7th worst, so it's not terrible. At best, you'd say that's mediocre. Points per game, we are 4th, so just something to keep an eye on there. Again, really early, not a huge sample size as we look to really just keep the season going here. So far, what's really the best news is that there are no injuries for the Knicks, knock on wood. So there are some injuries around the league. Antetokounmpo here, probably the most notable player. Marcus Smart out at age 30 now in the 24-25 season. Ja Morant out as well. So there are definitely some injuries. DeAndre Ayton's out, excuse me. And so do have some injuries around the league. But luckily, we've stayed pretty healthy so far. There were a couple trades since the start of the season. Let's see, just 2 trades here. Not super significant from what I can see. And what else? Just some signings here. A lot of these are more like kind of as the season started, opening night signings. But since then, Sharif Cooper signing with the Heat. But other than that, no firings or anything. Yeah, I think we're ready to resume. Let's see how the next month goes. So midway through December, we have our first scouting opportunities here, and pretty straightforward. We're just really kind of scouting out the top end of the draft right now. Odds are we're not picking in the top 5, but you never know with trades, you never know with injuries, that sort of thing. And I do think we have enough ammo that if we did see a guy that we just absolutely had to move up and get, maybe this is the year, right? So I've kind of ignored some of the top shooting forwards, small forwards, I should say, just because with Barrett kind of locked in there, I mean, we'd be looking at a bench player, and certainly don't see one of these top 6 guys being a good fit there. And this is a real life draft class, by the way, so you may recognize some of these names. I've noticed a lot of players from UCLA are in this class. But anyway, this will be the 2025 draft class here. So definitely looking at some centers. We have some depth at center, but centers do break down a little bit quicker. We have a lot of money locked up in the center position, and especially if we can find a center later on, maybe that's a way that we can save a little money down the road. We're still a team that's just, we're over the cap, right? So it's a little bit troublesome. Still, of course, looking at point guard, and don't really see a player here that I love per se at point guard. But again, just scouting it out just to see. It's still really early, and more of this information will become available. So if I just kind of scroll back up now, you can start to look at just some of the ratings of the players and so on. Again, really, really early scouting. None of these players have even played any games yet. But yeah, let me know what you see here, because we won't be getting to the draft in this episode. But if you see a guy kind of as we go through this scouting that really stands out to you as a good fit, let me know. Please just no spoilers. Don't be saying stuff like, oh, well, I went in and edited and I saw that this guy's got like a 99 potential or whatever, So just be obvious about that. But yeah, pretty simple first scouting trip here for the Knicks. Let's keep moving forward. Well, we are into the second scouting phase, and I will talk about some of the players that we'll be taking a look at. But this guy's got to be a practical joke, right? Fair warning, graphic content potentially ahead for you younger viewers. But here we have a player named Dick Cannon. He's out of Loyola. Can shoot the three, but of course, to the surprise of perhaps no one, Dick Cannon's inside D is pretty impressive. So we're approaching the end of December, and this is probably the first tempting trade the AI has thrown out there. It's something for us to think about, but it would be trading Julius Randle and his nearly $30 million salary, still an 84 overall, and still having a pretty good year if we look at his stats really quick. So he's averaging 15, 9 again, but these are down from last year, right? Really down for the last number of years. We look at his advanced metrics, down, down, and down. So again, not a huge surprise at age 30, but Julius Randle kind of taking a step back, and some of that could just be the team's a little bit more, we're a little more balanced in our scoring, and we don't have to depend on Julius Randle as much. But certainly there's an argument there that we've maybe gotten the best days that we're going to get out of Julius Randle. It, of course, would be moving Jericho Sims, who hasn't played at all this year. So as excited as I am still about his potential, it's just not happening, right, at age 26. I mean, we're just not really seeing it. It's down to a B now. Still a nice player, but certainly not something that should hold us back. And we'd be getting Jalen Duren, who, with my real-life Pistons, I think I'm saying his name right, he had a great opening night game. I watched that game against oddly enough, the Magic, which is where he plays now. And again, he would be coming in at the center position, so not a position that we necessarily need right now, but certainly would be a really nice player coming off the bench here. I love that he can play the perimeter. I mean, he's a really nice player for sure. He's got a 1-year contract now only, so we'd have to kind of figure out what we do with him. But I want to say that he would still be a restricted free agent, so he wouldn't necessarily save us money at the center position, but certainly would get Julius Randle off the books. Otto Porter would come in, and again, 1-year contract. He most likely would be gone and just kind of fill that role. And again, he can shoot the ball pretty decently. Can play decent defense. At least he can play perimeter defense pretty well. Can rebound. I mean, he's definitely a downgrade over Julius Randle, right? But it's an interesting thought to think about because it would free up really a nice chunk of money. But of course, it puts us at a disadvantage for moving forward this season, in my opinion. I mean, money isn't what we're worried about per se for this season. We're trying to win, right? If you look here in the Eastern Conference, we're the 7th seed right now. We're 17 and 11, so the entire team is kind of taking a step back. Then again, we're only 2.5 games back. We've had some trouble winning on the road, 5-7 there, 12-7 against our own conference, just 3-2 against our own division. And again, points again still being an issue here. So, I don't really know if that trade moves the needle per se. I mean, I think Duren is a really nice center, but we're okay at center. We actually have some really good defenders at center. So, I mean, he really wouldn't even see the court. He would be our new Jericho Sims. I mean, he wouldn't even be playing. And so it would get Julius Randle off the books. Now, if we're sitting at the 7th seed and it's at the trade deadline, I mean, maybe that's a different story, but I'm surprised to see us where we are. I'm really surprised. I thought we had a team here still, and it's still very, very early. We're not even 30 games in. But I think I definitely want to keep an eye on this because that's a little bit lower than I thought. But again, that's the first trade here that we've seen that at least perked my interest. So curious your thoughts on that. Well, we've simulated about another week or so, and we've only lost one game in that time, going 3-1, putting up 128 against Detroit, 126 against a top-rated, I almost call them the Falcons and the Eagles, but the Atlanta Hawks, of course. So let's just see where we're standing here, literally in the standings, because it's still early. Again, a lot can change. We're now at the 5 seed. 10 games above, or just about 9 games above 500, 63, 64 winning percentage. That's good, right? I think the other issue is just this conference is really good. So it's one thing to sit and we can sit and talk for a week about what's gone wrong with the Knicks, what are we doing, what's the issue here. It's not really that. There's just some really good teams here. Luckily, it was nice to see us beat Atlanta. This Orlando team looking really good. I mean, they're the team trying to go out and buy Julius Randle. So I mean, they're being really aggressive. And right now, they're the top team in the East, top team in the entire NBA. Sacramento still sits atop the Western Conference there. So we're playing really well at home, 15-4, 6-8 on the road, though. Again, points against still hovering around that 113 range, just not very good. But again, difference 2, 3, 4, 5. We're 5th in the conference there, so not terrible. But again, it's still something I'd like to see us tighten up. I think it's now also a good time to go in and look around at some of the team stats. So team stats, we're ranking here by points per game. Knicks are 3rd. Points against, though, we're the 7th worst in the league. So a lot of high-scoring games. Again, luckily, we've been outscoring our teams enough that we're still number 9 in the entire NBA in point differential. Field goal percentage, I've had some people ask about if the sliders are too high. They're shooting over 50. I mean, maybe slightly. It really depends on your sample size. But again, you have a lot of teams kind of hovering above this. The other thing, too, is you got to think projecting to the NBA in the future. I mean, shooting percentages are going up. I mean, players are getting better at shooting. And there's also kind of depends, too. Outside shooting is increased, which is going to lower shooting percentage. Whereas you'd have higher percentages back in the day with more players, playing underneath the rim and things like that. So it totally depends on your game style too. It's a really hard thing just to kind of say generally. And I'm referring to some folks in the on Twitter and Operation Sports Slider thread saying, "Hey, I think my shooting percentage is too high. What do you think?" Like, well, there's so many variables: your era, your roster makeup, that kind of thing, the type of defense you're playing, and so on. Or I should say, playing against. Anyway, so we're shooting the ball pretty well. We're tied for 2nd in the NBA. 3-point percentage, we're 3rd in the NBA as well. So again, whereas there's no issues here shooting the ball, right, scoring the ball. We are doing just fine there. I'm glad to see free throw percentages kind of coming back down to earth. We're 12th there. So again, no issues there. Defensive rebounds per game. Let's see. Middle of the pack, it looks like here. So... oh, where are we? Why am I missing the Knicks? Oh, I just scrolled right past them. Where are they? Here we go, 13th. Yeah, so middle of the league there. Total rebounds per game, I think we were at 48. So, again, right in the middle. Could be better, could be worse. But assists per game, again, we're not really having any issues with scoring the ball. 6th there. Blocks, 5.3, puts us 10th. Turnovers per game for the Knicks. We're turning the ball over more than any team in the NBA. That's really interesting. It'll be really interesting when we look at player stats and kind of see, what is Murray doing? What are some others doing? Because you certainly don't want to see that. Now, again, you can maybe make the argument that we're scoring so much that we just have more possessions than other teams. If we look at just kind of field goal attempts per game, but that's not really the case, right? I thought we would maybe see us like far and away number 1 or something like that, but we are 24th in field goal attempts. So, and again, this is all simulated games, so that's really interesting. Definitely don't like seeing that way up there. 7th in fouls against, points off turnovers. We're not scoring very often versus turnovers. Did we look at steals? Yeah, 18th. So our defense has been pretty lackluster, something I've been really kind of prideful on with this team build here. So our bench scoring really high. Let's see. Ninth in the league bench scoring, and that's not a huge surprise. We have a pretty deep team, which I do like. The percentage goes down from there. So again, we just score a lot of points. So our starters also score a lot of points. So our just bench by default is scoring more points as well. Or I should at least say that's why the percentage is lower, right? Because our starters are just scoring a ton of points this year. So yeah, I don't know. There's some takeaways there. I think it's not that it's early, but I'm not super concerned. I don't even know where we would really increase our team defense. We'll have to look a little bit closer at player stats here, but I thought this team would maybe be struggling a little bit offensively and not defensively, but that's not the case at all. So let's go take a look at player stats now and see if we can find any more clues. Before diving into player stats, let's take a look around the league. I think there's a couple cool things going on here. One, Kyrie Irving has been traded back to the Nets. I mentioned that he was on the Jazz on one of my streams at some point, or somebody asked me on some platform. Anyway, so he's back to the Nets, but traded for Ben Simmons along with a 2029 first-round pick. Here's what it's one of the little things that really impressed me about this game. So we know the Hawks were looking for a center. They're consistent with that need because they've gone out and made a trade with the Pacers here to get Vucevic. And so they now have a center that they were coveting, it looks like. So, again, just smart teams having some sort of game plan, or at least measuring their needs pretty well. No other signings have taken place. I think outside of that, it's just going to be like call-ups and send-downs. Nothing really to report there. Let's go in and look at injuries because for a while I'm starting to think that like injuries weren't working or something, but they are. The Knicks have had 0 injuries, like not even like a day-to-day injury. This is strange, and I know we hired some new staff members, but wow, are they doing a good job? And maybe we just jinxed them. I don't believe in jinxes, I should say, but just really interesting. But if we look around the league, there are some injuries here. LeBron James still playing at age 40, by the way, still a 93 overall, pretty crazy. But there are injuries happening throughout the league. Bamba out for the Magic. So again, maybe that. How long is he out? Because maybe he's on the Rockets or the Raptors here. So looking at the Magics, we just talked about them. I just want to see if they have any injuries that they're addressing, but doesn't look like they do. So okay, so let's go look at player stats then. And again, we can try to maybe decipher some things that are going on here. So here are some per game stats. Let's just go to games played. We have quite a few players who've played in all 33 games. So we're still less than halfway through the season. But there's 7 or so players who've played every game, and 3 of those players have started every game, including the oft-injured Mitchell Robinson, or at least last year was, Julius Randle, and RJ Barrett. So these 3 playing and playing significant minutes. Barrett 36 minutes per game. Very, very impressive. 25 points per game. We'll get into those stats here in a second. I'm just kind of looking at the usage here, right? Highland playing in every game, has started a few games, which is interesting because Murray didn't appear to be hurt or anything like this, but he just was coming off the bench for a few games there for whatever reason. Gafford coming off the bench every game. Wallace and Mann kind of splitting the time there at the 2. And then we are even getting some time. Again, Amen Thompson, by the way, up to an 80 overall now, coming off the bench. I mean, this is a deep team. It's not a huge surprise when we saw that bench scoring. The rookie Isaac Allman, the high school player who we picked 29th, I think. Yeah, 29th overall. He is just got a few minutes here. He comes in just playing 5 games so far, 13 minutes. But again, he's a guy that we have certainly for the future here to keep an eye on. Rodney Randall, who's just a backup point guard, I signed at age 29 to kind of just fill out some depth. He's kind of come in. So it does kind of make me think like maybe Murray was hurt, but I just didn't get a notification or something, which I should be because I have those turned on. But and then Sims, again, barely playing. Ryan, and then have we forgotten about Obi Toppin completely? He's played in 1 game. He played 1 minute in that game. I mean, what has happened to this guy? I mean, he just has no role here. No one's come calling for him. He's been on our trade block, I believe, but no one has even asked about him or anything. So, I mean, at this point, I'd take a bag of balls for him. I just can't see us re-signing him, right? So let's look at some stats, then we'll look at some advanced stats. So points per game, it's really just the RJ Barrett show. Murray, Randall down from the previous year, as we talked about. It's got that big salary. Highland chipping out the bench, man off the bench. So again, a lot of bench scoring, but it's really R.J. Barrett, Murray, and Randall. It's almost, I mean, you can make the argument that like we need a more dominant starter. Maybe that's something we look to do is we cut a deal where we just kind of beef up in a spot. We trade some of this depth and we get like a dominant number 2 guard or something like that, or a dominant power forward. If we can find a team, I don't know what kind of bad team would want to take Julius Randle's contract with there being another year on it after this year, but that would be ideal to do something like that. So to me, it's like we upgrade at power forward, at shooting guard, and then maybe point guard, but I don't know. I mean, Murray's a really, really good player. We're going to need him for the stretch. But again, if we're sitting kind of outside looking in at some of those top seeds in the East, it's definitely a discussion that he could be on the move. Center, maybe if we get a truly dominant, game-changing center, someone like Cat or something like that, maybe. But I don't know. I mean, it's just interesting to see. We're not getting like terrible production, but this is bench production. Mitchell Robinson, bench production. I shouldn't say bench production. I mean, there's almost double doubles. But these guys are just kind of, I mean, they're doing their job. So it is a position maybe we could upgrade. And again, if we set up something kind of an inside out setup, if there was you think back to Shaquille O'Neal days, right? And just get somebody that's that dominant. Again, very easy, right? Let's just go find a Shaquille O'Neal. But you get the idea. If we can find someone who could really kind of change the dynamic of this team at the center position, maybe that is an option. I love looking at these advanced metrics, and I like to kind of sort by position. So let's see, advanced stats here by position. So I like to look at the game score. Again, we're getting pretty good production out of point guard, but this is really the argument here, right? I mean, we're getting just about the same production out of Bones Highland here at $4 million a year versus $36 million for Jamal Murray. So there's no question. I don't see Jamal Murray being on this team next year. And maybe he's only 27 though, but I mean, it would have to be a significant decrease in salary. I mean, I really think we could probably move forward with Highland. If we look at their pure point rating, he's more than double what Murray is right now. I mean, geez, maybe Murray is the move even at the trade deadline here. It kind of kills two birds with one stone. We clear him out, we get something for him, but it could actually make us a better team. So that's a really interesting setup here. Again, we're just getting very, very minimal drop in game score and efficiency, and even player efficiency rating, which I believe is the one that takes into your team's or is it this one? Yeah, which is the one that takes in your team's kind of pacing and so on. Yeah, I think it's this one, right? This takes the main difference. Yeah, so like he actually fits our team better, right? Is what this stat's telling us here. So although he may be kind of underproducing to Murray, it's still very close, but he's the better fit for what we're actually doing here. So we look at the shooting guard. Again, game scores, you could definitely make an argument. Like, again, if we moved Murray and got a shooting guard for him, I mean, that could, and we got a backup point guard to go along with it or something. Huge improvement there. Barrett, we're not concerned with. I mean, he's just playing great. I mean, Highland has a better player efficiency rating, though, than even R.J. Barrett at this point. Thompson off the bench, not bad. He's fine. Randall, again, playing well. He's not playing bad at all. He's, the third highest game score on our team right now. But he was second. So, again, just dropping a little bit there. Still very, very productive player. That's why I'm still not in a huge rush to get rid of him, even though the contract's going to be a little ugly. But gosh, it would really be a difference maker if we cleared out Randall's contract and Murray's contract in the same offseason. I mean, that's very, very impactful. Obi Toppin just not playing at all. The center position, again, Gafford is actually outplaying Mitchell Robinson this year, really across the board. So there's an argument there. If we look at the contracts here, I like Mitchell Robinson's contract. He's going to be even cheaper next year. Gafford also back. So I don't know. I mean, they're the same age, right? 26 and 26. So I think Sims is, also 26. It says there underneath his name on this screen. So there's some options. Again, to me, it's like Murray might be the move. Murray / Randall. Maybe we can start exploring some of those trades here because we are about a month and a week or so away, about a month and a half away from the trade deadline. And again, we have quite a few guys. I guess I don't have Toppin on the block because I ran out of space, but I could probably take off Allen Ryan and put Toppin there instead, just because I'd rather clear out that contract. But yeah, poor Obi Toppin just is not getting any play. I thought we've had a few offers. Oh, he can't be traded. Okay, so that's why. So yeah, I mean, all of these players to me are still potential ideas, and maybe we can do kind of the same way we found Jamal Murray is let me go look for a blockbuster here. Let's see what we can do to maybe make a move here to kind of get out of this stagnant spot that we're in. Again, 5th, not bad, but we were 1st last year. But this Eastern Conference is competitive, and we may need to make a move sooner than we realize. Again, just a 1.5 game out, though. So a lot of food for thought here. I did start shopping around a little bit to see if there's anything out there that might be of interest, and you guys are going to laugh, but one of the names that popped up is none other than Jalen Brunson, who we traded, 2 seasons ago? But here's the thing, right? Jalen Brunson's done pretty well since we sent him to Denver. Game scores of 12.3, 13.7. Let's just kind of take his average, right? Let's just call it maybe a career, 10.6. Let's just call it, 10.5 or something like that. Let's take Aaron Gordon's here of 10, right? So again, just kind of looking at his career average, we can call that a 10, and just doing straight game scores. That's a 22-point game score here between these two players, right? One of the offers here, Mitchell Robinson, 9 game score, Julius Randle, 13, right? So again, it's right at the same spot. So as much as this kind of looks like, ooh, well, here we go. Here's kind of the fill-in for Randle. Gordon can take that spot. We move one of the centers where we're pretty deep, and we get Jalen Brunson back, who's on a fairly friendly contract, I guess. 24, 25 million here, about 25 with a player option for 2025. So, again, it does some different things, but really that's the same contract that Julius Randle has. Aaron Gordon is on a 2-year deal. So now we're adding this contract, which is more than Mitchell Robinson. So to me, on the surface, I could say like, oh, wow, this looks like an exciting trade. But really, I don't really think it's a good fit because we're adding $10 million in salary, and we're also giving up, even though it's lottery protected, a first-round pick in next year's draft. So here's the other deal they're offering us, and it's really the same issue. If we tally up the advanced metrics here, 14 game score, even on a down year for Jamal Murray. With this, again, 21. It's the same thing. And this one, we're throwing in a 2nd-round pick. And by the way, this contract is super team-friendly, just like $4 million or something for a couple of years. Jamal Murray's gone at the end of the year, so this trade makes even less sense. So when I dig deep into these, I just didn't really see a fit. Some other names that did come up, by the way, and I shopped for all of these. Most teams told me to, kick rocks. They didn't want to talk. Chris Paul was an option, but again, I just don't, we have an expiring contract. It gets rid of Randall, and maybe if this was, Jamal Murray, but again, that would just be a bad trade for us, right? And I still see Bones Hyland as a player that we can build around a little bit next year. I don't want to leave us completely bare at point guard. And if we're going to let Jamal Murray either walk in free agency and use him in the playoffs, or we trade him now, Hyland's all we have left really at point guard. So it's nice to get this top 3 protected first-round pick, but I really don't care about that at this point. I mean, we're building to win a championship. First-round picks are nice, but we're not worried about future first-round picks. We can cross that bridge when we get to it. Some other names here, Bradley Beal was another one where some options came up. We're not trading RJ Barrett, so you can skip all of these. Now, again, here's one moving Murray. We're sending a very future first-round pick in 2029. And, Bradley Beal, but the thing is, dude's making $57 million in 2 seasons. Like, that's not happening. I'm not paying a dude who will be 33, $57 million. I like that we get Dinwiddie back as kind of a fill-in at point guard for Murray. But again, now we have 2 point guards. Like, we're kind of locked in at point guard at this point. We don't really have any flexibility. So I'm not loving. There were some other deals with that, but there just weren't deals that I loved. Again, this is basically the same trade, but they switch out Mitchell Robinson for Gafford. And this one, they're trading both point guards, which we just can't do. We're not getting anything back of value there. So let's see if there are any other names. I actually don't think there were. I think Lonzo Ball, but they wanted RJ Barrett, I think, in the deals I saw. Now they're showing me some different ones, but here's one without RJ Barrett. I mean, this trade's actually not too bad now that I look at it. And this one didn't pop up before, but this gives us Lonzo Ball. And it does two things, right? It moves Julius Randle, which we're looking to do. Highland, yeah, maybe that's a problem because, like, well, he's our point guard of the future, but not if we have Lonzo Ball on the team, right? The thing is here, he's making $40 million. He'll be 30, so it's not terribly old. But is he what we're looking for at point guard long term? He can shoot 3-pointers, great perimeter defender, great playmaker. So, I mean, yeah, basketball IQ A+, I love that. That's going to help with turnovers, one would think. This trade is not bad. If I had to pick one right now without really kind of digging deep, because this one just popped up here live as I was recording this clip, this one is not bad. Murray would be gone. Randall's contract would be gone. So you figure $25 million plus another 55 million or so. And you're using how much of that here? So you're going to free up about $15 million and add Lonzo Ball at point guard. We'd have to figure out something for power forward. But again, filling one hole isn't a huge deal. But it would be a huge deal because what do we do right now this season with Lonzo Ball and Jamal Murray still on the roster? And I guess you can make the argument, well, we're going to move Jamal Murray for a power forward, and maybe that's something we'd have to explore if we went the route of a trade like this. Now here's another interesting trade that AI just sent me. Julius Randle and an unprotected second-round pick in the upcoming draft for the 33-year-old now, Chris Middleton. Is making a hefty amount of money there, but again, a really, really good player. Can score from anywhere, can play some defense for sure. And again, would be kind of that maybe over-the-hump player we're talking about. The issue, he plays small forward, and as we've seen, the CPU teams just won't move guys around in the starting lineup. He'll come off the bench. He would definitely be our number 6 man. But the game, and again, we're using just kind of the CPU coaching. We're letting Thibodeau, quote-unquote, do his thing, meaning really the AI is doing it, right? But that's just to kind of keep things fair amongst the other teams. And so this makes a lot of sense. It moves Randall, and it'd be great if the game could tell me, like, well, no, we're gonna move Middleton. We're just gonna run a little small at the power forward. Okay, that's fine. But then the thing is, again, now we have an older player who is going to be on the decline as well. Would help us this year for sure, but it doesn't help us with the Julius Randle contract situation at all either. It actually potentially makes it worse. Older, more money for a longer amount of time. So again, just at first glance, I thought maybe this would be an interesting trade, but I don't really think it is. And here's another reason why I'm not in a huge rush. You don't see a lot of red on this screen. We've lost once since December 17th, or I guess, yeah, December 17th, and that was a loss pretty bad to the Celtics. The team chemistry is at 100%, right? We're just about at the midway point of January, and let's see where we're standing here. We are now the top team in the Eastern Conference. We're the second best team in the entire NBA, just behind the Oklahoma City Thunder, which, by the way, if you've missed the members only video, which shows you the rosters here at the start of the season, and you're curious to see what this team looks like. Remember, they had like 6,000 first-round picks. They're an interesting team for sure, so maybe check that video out, but you will need to subscribe as a member on the channel to see that exclusive video there. So, but I'm starting to kind of get back into my shell a little bit about just sitting tight and riding things out. We are the best team right now in the Eastern Conference. Again, it's very, very small sample size still. We're only about halfway through the season, not even. And so, yeah, just about right at the halfway point. So Again, food for thought. We're keeping our eye out. We still have a few weeks to go before the trade deadline, but perhaps we just kind of ride this 100% chemistry, because that's something that was lacking with the moves we made last year. And again, when you start trading, it impacts team chemistry. A top team in the East can struggle in the playoffs if team chemistry isn't strong, and that may have been what we saw last season. So I've sped up the video here 8 times the normal speed, and we're just going to talk through generally scouting. I mean, we have a deep enough scouting team here that I can probably scout most of this draft if need be, but I'm still trying to just kind of go through and just pick players that make sense for what we're looking for, but also not stretching too much. Like, I'm not drafting or scouting players that are ranked like 90th in the class. There is maybe one outlier, that Clifford Chapman you may have seen. He's a center who's kind of in the 70 range. But other than that, we're really just trying to find guys that are going to fit into our potential draft spot, which should be the end of the first round. All right, so we are up to February 1st at this point. The team's looking in good shape again. We are still the top team in the East, second best team in the NBA right now. 1 game lead. If we go and look at the power rankings, it has us a little bit lower at 3rd, but that's okay. No problem there. Even if we are the number 3 seed, not the end of the world there. Sometimes it's nice just to kind of sneak in, keep some of that video game fictional pressure off of our fictional video game players. And we can just see, by the way, we never actually looked at the screen, considered the 6th best, I guess, power ranking. I don't really know what this is. GM rankings, of course, but I don't really know exactly what this is measuring, but have not ever looked at that screen before. And there's been a lot of activity, actually. If we go look at trades, there have been a lot, right? So let's just kind of scroll back through. I think we maybe saw these, Kyrie Irving. So Fred VanVleet on the move, Porzingis on the move, and I'll just kind of flip through these. John Wall, and you can see some of the trades here. Kawhi Leonard, there's Bradley Beal. So again, Wizards were pretty active, or at least when we reached out, they were looking to move Bradley Beal, and they indeed do that. So there were a lot of trades. I think there's been 13 trades so far. I usually will kick the trade slider up here on the kind of like the week or so before the trade deadline. So just to kind of get a few more. I mean, ideally, I'd like to see even 7 more. Get around that 20 range or so, but there's still enough time here. But there's a lot to really look at. One thing I have noticed, unfortunately, I don't know why this is the case, but I'm not getting injury updates. So we have had some injuries. I don't think it's been anything too bad. We have Highland out 4 to 6 weeks, Murray day to day. So I don't know if these guys have missed a ton of time or anything like that. When we looked at stats last, there wasn't really an issue. I think we saw maybe Murray missed like 3 games or something. But we still have, how many players have started? Just Barrett and Randall have started all 47 games. Mitchell Robinson has still played in all 47, as had Cason Wallace and Trey Mann. So Thompson maybe is dinged up a little bit. Gafford maybe dinged up. Highland is probably more just from this last injury. Murray's injury took him out about 8 games or so. And again, that's how you're seeing some of these backups. So Obi Toppin has found his way into 3 more games. So yeah, I don't know. I wish, if anybody knows how to turn those notifications back on, maybe I just kind of quick buttoned ignored that or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but here's the dilemma again, right? 100% team chemistry. The trade deadline's coming up. Could we use something? Sure. Do we need something? It's debatable, right? Let's look at where that defensive team stats lies, because again, just real generally, but just looking at points against. I mean, we are on the rise, so we're now 9th worst in the league. It's, I guess, better than 7th, so it has gone up. Our point differential, though, has gone way up. We are now 3rd in the league, so I don't really think we need to send off or like sound the fire alarm or the smoke alarm. I don't really know if there's like a massive concern here, but I'm open to it. So I do think this is a good spot to stop. We did this last time, kind of stopping at the trade deadline. I wanted to kind of get through, but really looking at the number of minutes that we've recorded already, we're kind of pushing kind of as long as I want this episode to go. So we are at February 1st. We're 33-14, 100% team chemistry. And I will reiterate again, team chemistry was like in the 60s or something like that in the playoffs last year. And we went out in 7 games as the #1 team in the NBA. I don't want to mess with chemistry too much unless it's a just huge play, a huge trade that really kind of puts something else in play that we're not even doing right now. Even though I understand that maybe the need and want by a lot of you, by a lot of people who love a rebuild, you want to get rid of those big contracts, but like, it's overblown. We're trying to win an NBA championship. I don't care if Julius Randle's on this team. He's still valuable. We can deal with that problem later. What we can't deal with is if we create a massive hole on February 1st on a team that's trying to win the NBA championship. We cannot fix that. So we can mitigate some risk. We can mitigate damage by kicking the proverbial can down the road a little bit. So let me know your thoughts on that. This is episode 2 of our 3rd season here with the New York Knicks. Gosh darn it, we're going to win a damn championship. I'm Mike Lowe. You can find me on Twitter at MikeLowe47. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. If you haven't liked the video recently or checked out some of the other content we're doing, check that out as well. I super appreciate it, and it keeps me motivated. This has been a lot of fun, and you all are a huge part of that with your comments and feedback and things like that. So we will be back at it probably at some point this weekend. Don't know for sure, but certainly sticking with that Tuesday, Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, either a live stream or a video like this that was worked on kind of the day before. To get something out to y'all. So again, thanks everyone. Thanks for checking everything out, and I'll see you next time.